Hello everyone, welcome to the restoration project. Today we're going to be restoring the antique ball peen hammer that is on my right. I bought this hammer from the south of France for a bit of context, and as you can see on the top it says Armée Française, which means French Army. On the back we will see later that there is a serial number, however I could not trace this to any other information that I found on the internet. I did do quite a bit of research. On my left I have a half peen hammer, but that's for a different video, so let's get started restoring this antique ball peen hammer. First off, we're going to be doing the vinegar bath to do the bulk of the rust removal. This gets the really deep rust out of my hammer and tools, and I'm going to be pouring 0.8% white vinegar into the bath. Now you're going to be putting your items into the bath and make sure that the vinegar level is slightly above that of the hammer. Now as you can see that the bath has been filled with all sorts of brown liquids, it's residue, but this is because I filled it with all of my other tools whilst doing it, so I don't waste any vinegar. Now we're going to start off by scrubbing our ball peen hammer with a toothbrush and a wire brush after we've taken it out of the bath. It's best to scrub in the water because this allows you to remove more rust and also makes less mess. This is a post toothbrush and wire brush and rust removal evaluation, and as you can see, we can see some raw iron underneath there. However, this does need a lot more work with a mechanical wire brush. Now we're going to start the mechanical wire brush removal. These are our two hammers after the rust removal process, and I'm going to just put my hammer in the metal vise to keep it secure. If you do not have a metal vise, I firstly suggest purchasing one, as it is very useful if you restore this type of tool, but second of all, you can just use your wooden vise but put some aluminium angle on the side to protect it. Now I'm going to be using the flat wire brush to remove some of the rust. I use this brush first as it's best for removing a lot of the bulk of the surface rust. Make sure to always use hand and eye protection, as any specks of rust can go into your eye or any of the brushes can hurt your hand. The process looks like it's going very fast, but actually it's quite a slow process. You need to be very patient as you will need to use various different brushes. Now I'm going to be using the handheld wire brush with some water to get rid of the large amount of the rust left over, as this brush has the largest surface area. Now here and in the previous clip we are using the cup wire brush, as this can get into all of those little holes and dents in the surface. And it can take away all of the little specks of rust that are left over from the previous rust removal methods. I use a cloth to wipe away all of the water and rust mixed together, as this cleans up the surface a bit. As you can see, there's a serial number on the back, however this did not help me in tracing anything back to this. And lastly, I finish off with the handheld wire brush, just as a finishing touch. Make sure that you get into the nooks and crannies under the peen and under the head to make sure that your surface is completely clean. Now finally, we're going to be using sandpaper. I'm going to cut a bit of 80 grit sandpaper and a pencil, which I wrap the sandpaper around to remove some of the rust in the hole where the handle goes. This allows me to push the sandpaper up and down, and it abrades away some of the rust inside. However, this didn't work well, and I ended up using a blunt rasp. However, that didn't work either, and I ended up leaving it, but as you can see later in the video, this did help me when marking out how to shape the handle. This is a post rust removal evaluation, and as you can see, it looks very nice. We're going to be using 80-grit sandpaper to remove some of the text on the handle from when I bought it. However, later in the second part, we'll be removing all of that type of stuff and shaping the handle. Now we're going to be marking out the width of the hammer on our handle just to see whereabouts we need to remove, and I use a tape measure to confirm that. Now I'm putting the handle in the vise and attaching it securely, meaning that I can use my flat rasp, half round rasp and flat file to remove away some of the material. I finish off doing a full ring around the handle so that I can check all aspects of the handle to see if I've shaped it well. As you can see, I keep on doing a bit of rasping and filing, and then I put the hammer on just to check if the shape is perfect so that I don't make any mistakes, because you can always do it too large and put it a bit less, but you can't go too small. Now, as you can see, the rust on the hammer has marked a bit of the handle, and this is instead of using chalk to mark out the handle, which I do suggest you do. However, you can use the rust and then you can clean it out later if you really want to. I keep on test fitting the hammer on just to make sure I have made no error. Now I'm going to use a tenon saw, as I found this a very effective way of removing material quickly, and it has helped me to shape the sides down more. However, I did make a mistake with the tenon saw, which you've just seen me do. I put the sides flat, however at the bottom of a hammer they are convex, and it goes out, and it's half an oval on each side, and it goes wide at the bottom, thin, then wide at the top. Now I'm removing material by sawing it off, and I'm going to saw the rest of it off from the side. Now I'm adding final touches using a rasp to flat out the bottom. However, as you can see, there's still a bit of rust left on the handle, which means I need to add some finishing touches to the handle. And finally, it fits. Now, as you can see, there's a bit sticking out from the top of the hammer. Now I'm just cutting the slit for the stop in the top for the hammer to be secure. I'm just using a bit of sandpaper to finish off the edge and clean things up a bit. These are the stops. You can find them in multiple different sizes. You can use a wooden wedge actually, but I decided to use the iron wedges as they are far more durable. Now I'm just deepening the slit for the wedges to go in, and they should fit. As you can see, there's a bit sticking up from the top, so I'm going to mark this off with a pencil, and then I'm going to cut it off with a tenon saw. I suggest you can use any saw apart from a coping saw, as that would create a non-perpendicular cut. And as you can see, the top is flush. Now we're going to be putting our large wedge in. I decided not to use the small wedge, as this one is the width of the handle inside, which is what you should choose the size of. You can also use two wedges, however that's not necessary as my hammer isn't too big. I'm just adding a bit more pressure onto the wedge to make sure it's fully in with the hammer, and our hammer is done. Make sure to stick around for part 2. This is when I finish off the hammer and shape the handle. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, add a comment down below, look at the previous video and my suggestion.